This is the most toxic family to ever appear on Supernanny.
Like, he'll call me and my little sisters bitches.
You little bitch, come here.
If it doesn't get better, then what?
I don't know.
That's all right, I'll go get my belt.
That's disgusting.
Dressed like that, you look...
Hello, you gorgeous donuts. Supernanny is a TV show where Joe Frost goes into homes where children are terrifying their parents with their terrible behaviour. The parents are so desperate that they call in the Supernanny to help them as a last resort to finally fix their children. But a lot of the time it's the parents that also need fixing, so Supernanny ends up trying to build an entire family back together. And by the end of the episode, she tries to fix them permanently. However, a lot of the times that proves very difficult. In the episode we're going to be breaking down today, this is called the most shocking episode of Supernanny ever by Supernanny Wiki. And if there's one opinion I'm trusting on Supernanny, it's Supernanny Wiki. Okay. This involves a family called the Davises. And this episode even comes with a trigger warning because what you're about to witness in this is shocking. So we're going to break down this entire episode, and at the end of the video I'm also going to give you an update on how the family are getting on to this day. Let's get into it. So the episode kicks off with Supernanny reacting to the Davises intro tape where they basically tell us a little bit about themselves. Phil and Debbie are the parents and they have 5 children. Morgan 14, Philip 9, Madison 4, Tiffany who's 3 and Tori who's 2. These two have been very busy in the bedroom, you could say. They also both work full-time, so obviously this is a very stressful family dynamic here. Whenever I hear about families like this, it makes me feel so bad for stressing out. Like, I only have 1 dog and sometimes he's a little bit overwhelming for us. Never mind having 5 kids on top of that. Am I weak? Maybe I'm weak. We find out that Phil is actually Morgan's stepdad, and I don't know if this kind of changes the dynamic between the two, because Phil isn't very nice to her, and he also takes no responsibility for his children. He puts all the responsibility on Morgan, who's also a child.
Let's pick this up. Let's go.
I'm not picking it up. Morgan was up here watching them, and look what she let him do.
What? You're the dad? What do you mean? Well, I'm not picking up their toys. It's the kids' toys. I don't play with them. Yes, but that's what you do when you're a dad. The kids can't clean up after themselves when they're 2 years old. Does that look like my Barbie on the floor? When have you ever seen me play with Barbies? Clearly that's not mine. I'm not picking it up. How can a dad have this attitude, especially a dad of 5? If everyone in the household had this attitude, then nothing would ever be cleaned. Also, the fact he's blaming, like, one of the children for letting them get the house this way. All Debbie asked was, can you pick something up off the floor? It's not like it's Monkey.
First thing a wife should do, she should have the house clean. She should have the kids ready in a decent time. Hey, you're sitting on your rear end all day.
Exactly, King, right? I feel your pain. I'm joking. Before you rush to the dislike button, that was satire. Welcome to the channel. Phil clearly has a very old-fashioned mindset on how a family dynamic should work. Like, you both work full-time, so therefore, when you go home, you have to share the responsibilities of looking after your children. It's not like Debbie's at home all day and she can just, like, spend all her time cooking and cleaning. She works as much as you, so why should she have to do everything when she goes home and you shouldn't? Just because she's not got something dangling between her legs. Right? How's that fair? If you were going out and working and, like, providing for Debbie to just stay at home, maybe then you would have more of a point. But even then, like, staying home with all of those kids is stressful in itself and probably more stressful than a job. I love that this guy just, like, voids himself of any responsibility. Like, these are his children as well. Now, like I said, Phil puts all of his responsibility onto Morgan, and Morgan kind of acts like a second mom in this household. Bearing in mind she's 14.
I have to get my little sisters dressed, and I have to make sure Philip's getting dressed.
Morgan does help me do that. She complains about it, whines about it, but it's what we have to do.
But, like, you're not letting this girl have, like, her own childhood. Like, she's 14. That's, like, a pivotal age for school time. Like, she should be just focused on getting to school. Like, that should be her only worry on a morning. She shouldn't have to be changing all of the nappies and getting all of the kids ready. I know obviously she's doing it to help you, but that shouldn't be underappreciated. Like, she doesn't have to do this. She's doing it to help you because the dad won't do it. We then find find out that Morgan is actually a straight-A student, but because she has all of these responsibilities on a morning, she's turning up late for school every day and she's failing her first term. So this is having like a real-world impact on her future. I've got 3 younger siblings, so I understand what it's like on a morning, getting them ready for school and how you have to help. I understand the mother can't do it all, but at the end of the day, it was your choice to have this many kids. You can't burden one of your older kids with that responsibility because it's not their children. It wasn't their choice to have these kids. That might be a controversial opinion, but this is just me speaking from experience. Now, not only does Phil just take no responsibility for the children or getting them ready, the way he speaks to them is honestly awful.
My dad loses his temper so bad that he'll call me and my little sisters bitches.
I'll be like, you little bitch, come here.
What? How can a dad say that to a 2-year-old? Oh, you, man, you little bitch. Come here. Come here, I'll change your nappy, you little bitch. That's a sentence I've never said.
I shouldn't say that.
You shouldn't say it, so why do you say it? Like, that doesn't make it better. Well, I know that I shouldn't say it, right? So I take backsies, okay? When I say it, I have my fingers crossed, so I don't really mean it.
That's all right, I'll go get my belt. I see you get up.
That's disgusting.
Okay. Right, I think I've provided you with the wildest family to ever appear on Supernanny. Right, there we go. Right, don't worry. Always got you covered, guys. Always a chill watch on this channel. The fact he's got the belt, like, this, to me, is, like, very small man syndrome, trying to, like, have some authority. The fact he's intimidating these young girls with a belt is honestly horrific. Even the fact he's, like, spanking them. He says, oh, yeah, we've tried the timeout thing. Doesn't really work, so I just whack them. Like, what? Surely you try other methods, right, before you pull the belt out. You've also got to remember as well, this guy is doing this sort of punishment on camera. So what is he doing off camera? He's going to be behaving like, he's going to be on his best behavior when the production team's there. So it does make you question, like, how bad is it when they're just going about their daily lives? The effects that this is going to have on the kids when they're older is honestly going to be catastrophic. And even Phil, when he was younger, might have had this behavior done to him. And this is how he's turned out. It's not good. It doesn't set kids up for a good future, belting them. Okay, I know that's like a little bit of a given these days. I also love how Supernanny is portrayed as if she's fixing really badly behaved children, when in reality she's just fixing the parents most of the time. Morgan then says that her parents have split up multiple times because of the stresses of the kids.
Our family has gotten so bad that my parents have separated quite a few times in the past. Supernanny, please come help my family.
Jesus. You can tell the production team told her to say that, which is just kind of brutal. Supernanny, please come and help my family. Can you do it again? But can you, like, just look sadder? Like, a little bit sadder, please? Put some effort into it, Morgan. Christ. But the fact that our parents have split up a couple of times, like, this is a really toxic family environment, and it's not good for the kids to grow up in. Also, what does it teach the kids that every single time you have an argument, you split up? Like, is that really the behaviour you want your kids to take into their relationships? It just seems like this family don't put their kids first, unfortunately. Supernanny then turns up to the house for the first time in her notorious London black cab. I would love to know what the taxi fee was from London all the way to Florida. I'm unsure if she can pay contactless with that one. The family then welcome her in and she meets them for the first time, and straight away Phil says he's really nervous because he doesn't know what she's going to think of him. Now, if you know that you're a good parent and you kind of treat your kids with respect, you're not going to be nervous. You're more going to be excited because you know she's going to, like, improve your home life. So even that is just, like, springing red flags to me mind. And straight away Supernanny can tell why he was nervous, because she asks about the family dynamics, and it gets reaffirmed to us that Debbie does absolutely everything.
Anything to do with the kids is my responsibility. Anything to do with cleaning is my responsibility.
So yours is?
I might have to go to work, come home.
Play video games.
Yeah. But Debbie also goes to work. So she didn't even mention work in her responsibilities, yet you're mentioning work in your responsibilities. Make it make sense, Phil. God, I would be a mincer with Kyle, wouldn't I? It's just strange that he can't see from his point of view how he's kind of just putting it all on her. Or maybe he knows he is and he's kind of coasted this entire time somehow. Even Debbie said there that he has time to play, like, on an Xbox or a PlayStation, where obviously she has no time because after work she's doing all the cleaning, she's doing all the cooking, she's looking after all the kids. She has no time to do what she likes and her interests. God, I'm being a proper feminist in this one today, aren't I? Right, it's alright, girls, I've got you, don't worry. Men, honestly. Castrate them all, that's what I say. That's what it's called, right, isn't it?
Play with Philip, relax. So he has quality time.
That's a great excuse, to be fair. I'm not playing on this video game for me. I'm playing on it for my son, so he has quality time with us. What, are you trying to take quality time away from me and my son? Are you, Debbie? Red flag. Joe, get her. Gaslight. That's what we like to see, fella. What about her quality time with her daughters? She gets none of it. If all of this was happening, but Phil, like, really appreciated what Debbie did, even though Debbie would be pissed off that he doesn't do anything, it would be nice to know that she is valued. However, you can tell Phil doesn't appreciate what Debbie does for the family. He more focuses on the stuff she doesn't do.
I don't have time in the morning to clean the house, Phil.
There's time to pick up your cereal bowl.
Why are you focusing on a cereal bowl? Didn't she, like, ask you just previously to pick up a Barbie doll and you went, well, it's not my Barbie doll, is it? I can't pick it up. You don't have a leg to stand on, you sir. What? This is just one of those things that you do, like when you have like quite a few kids in the house. Like if someone else is struggling, you lean on your partner, if you're lucky enough to have a partner, and then they take some of the burden, and then you do it. Like that's just what you do. You work as a team. This conversation then leads to a really big argument between the two parents and Morgan, where they just keep going back and forth. And then Debbie storms outside and starts crying, and Supernanny starts speaking to her.
I love Phil, but he needs to step up to the plate.
Was that something he said he was willing to do?
Yeah.
If it doesn't get better, then what?
I don't know.
I feel really sorry for Debbie here because clearly she wants Phil in her children's lives because, you know, it's just a better overall quality of life if both parents are there. Like, it's like a nice family dynamic to have, the dream family dynamic. And it just shows what a kind person she is because she's still thinking about it from Phil's point of view and from the kids' point of view rather than putting herself first. And I think this is something that a lot of mothers go through and a lot of fathers as well. When the other person isn't taking much of the responsibility and you're the person doing everything, people get into a headspace where they have to contemplate whether it's worth actually being with this person, if this is going to actually create a more negative life for your kids or a positive one. It's much easier to split up with your partner when you don't have kids, but when you've got kids, it just makes it so much harder. Just from this conversation Debbie's had, it makes me think that she knows what the correct decision is overall for the family, but she just doesn't want to make it.
If Phil chooses not to fix that, it will end our marriage.
Now, I'm unsure if Phil is going to be able to fix this because I fear what's to come is only going to be worse. Hopefully he can fix it by the end of the episode. Debbie then goes out shopping for food for the family for tonight, and Morgan uses this time to kind of have a go at Phil for how he talks to her and the kids.
You call everyone the B word if they look at you the wrong way.
What do you mean B word?
I'll say to her, you're acting like a bitch.
What kind of a way is that to speak to somebody? Anybody. Never mind your children. You're basically saying to your kids that this is fine to speak to people like this when it's just not.
You do what I tell you to do, and you shut your damn mouth about it. You can sit there and throw your tears all you want. That's your problem. You're just like your mama. You run all the time.
So straight away you can see that for some reason Phil is just deeply unhappy in his own skin, in his own mind, that he projects this onto anybody that's near him. He was saying multiple insults to Morgan just to hurt her for no real reason. She didn't even say anything bad. All she did was say, I don't like the way that you speak to us, which was completely valid. And you can tell they're raising these kids in an environment where they're not allowed to kind of express how they feel because they just get shut down, and then also when they start crying they get made fun of. So genuinely in this household they're just not allowed to express how they feel. So if they ever feel down or they ever feel like crying, they're not going to go to their parents because their parents haven't created a space for them to do so. It's all these little things just have such a huge impact on kids' lives growing up, and it means when they're older it's going to be even harder for them to express how they feel to their partners, etc., because they've constantly been shut down their entire life. Okay, I'm going to stop rambling now. Dropping some truth bombs today. That's what I'm going to rename the channel. Not Camp Kirkham, just Truth Bomb City. Hasn't got the same ring to it, has it? Well, Camp Kirkham's a pretty boring name anyway. God, she has parents. You can also tell that both Debbie and Morgan have kind of invited Supernanny in and the production crew to expose Phil because they're constantly probably getting shut down. They just want an external eye on this. Just be like, look, just observe him. We'll speak to him, and then you can make your decision about him.
You swear at the younger ones as well.
Yeah, and I'm not proud of that. I'm ashamed of that as a father. It's like, man, what kind of father are you to call your daughter a bitch?
That's so interesting that he knows it's wrong, but he constantly does it. It's almost like it's wired into his subconscious to just react like that. I wonder maybe he's in his household growing up, this was how he was spoken to, so he thinks it's just normal behaviour, instantly to react this way. I do think it's a positive that he knows it's wrong, but then I don't know if that's a negative because he still continues to do it. This one's such an interesting episode. After this, Supernanny goes upstairs and she finds Morgan crying crying her eyes out upstairs. Like, obviously this is not nice to watch. And again, she's only 14 and she's like having to act like an adult. She must just feel so isolated, especially since she's the one child in the household that isn't like, you know, biologically attached to the dad. So she's kind of like, in her own mind, will already feel like a bit of an outsider, unfortunately. So when Phil treats her like this only kind of amplifies how she's going to be feeling, and it's just going to make her overall unhappy. Shortly after this, Phil somehow gets worse as he demonstrates his punishment methods on the children.
Have you ever used the belt as discipline?
I have used it, yes. I'll just kind of like pop it like that.
No, you don't. No, you do it harder. You can ask Mom.
I love that Morgan's here because she's not letting him bullshit the cameras. He's like, yeah, just, you know, it's more of a, you know, like a stroke than a slap. If anything, I don't even make contact. Bullshit. Bullshit, Phil. This is genuinely horrific. This might be the worst dad I've seen on Supernanny ever.
Right.
Around there.
Right, like that.
Yeah.
And then-
Don't demonstrate on the baby.
Please don't use your child to show me, but...
No, but I'm just saying.
Okay, a couple of things there. Like, the way that he manhandled this child.
No, but I'm just saying.
Just like, get off, man. But he does open up a little bit about this is how his family raised him. So I think this has just been installed into him, this like bad habit behavior as normal. So then he's just projecting it onto his kids. But then you never break on the cycle. And then your kids are going to do it to their kids. And then their kids are going to be unhappy. And clearly you're unhappy. It's just a shame that some people, when they become parents, don't recognize that the behavior their parents did possibly wasn't the best thing for them. Normally these people always go, well, it worked for my parents and I turned out okay. But in reality, like, it's not okay. Right after this, somehow it gets even worse. Genuinely, in this episode, every scene just gets worse and worse. As he smacks one of his children in the mouth.
Hey, you don't bite. You don't bite.
All of his techniques are just like physical abuse, really. Like, you know, if you're going to call it something, that's what it is. He's hurting the children. That's what he's doing. And it makes me think, like, Debbie has broken up with this man multiple times, and this might be the reason for it, but every single time she invites him back into the home to do it again. I just hope by the end of this episode, either Phil fixes up his behaviour or Debbie finally calls it quits, because this behaviour can't go on. From Phil's point of view, I do get that, you know, being a parent is really stressful, and, you know, you are going to feel just angry if, like, in etc. You're going to feel so many emotions for the first time, but you can't take that out aggressively on your kids. Like, you've got to channel your emotions in a more positive way. I know it's like an easy thing for me to say, but it's just what's got to be done. The family then go out on a walk together, and somehow Phil is even more vile towards Morgan.
Do you see that chain that she's wearing? That belongs to that boy, Chris, on his neck. What's she doing wearing a chain?
A guy
17-year-old.
that's 17, and I don't think at 14 years old she needs to have a boyfriend that's 17.
Now that's a fair point. Genuinely, like, I would be concerned as well. I've got a 14-year-old daughter and a 17-year-old bloke's wanting, you know, to be with her. I'm going to be like, you know what? I don't agree with this. It could be argued that this 17-year-old guy doesn't have the best intentions with a 14-year-old, because that's just a creepy age gap, in my opinion. It's just illegal, so it's creepy and it's illegal. But just on a deeper level, what is the reason why Morgan will be going for a boy like this? She's used to being disrespected in her home life, so with her partner, this behaviour is so normalized that she's picking a partner that, you know, arguably could be disrespecting her also. She's so accustomed to only being loved this way, so she finds like a strange comfort in it. I know that sounds really weird, but that's kind of how the brain processes getting treated like this.
I mean, you look at her, she don't look 14. She gets her makeup on. Shirts are a little too low for me too, I think. You don't have to look like what I think.
What do you think she looks like?
When you dress like that, you look a slut.
Oh my God. Wow. Imagine your dad calling you a slut. Like, what are we doing here? She's wearing jeans and a top. The fact he's pointing out that she's showing cleavage, like, why is he sexualizing? Like, his 14-year-old daughter. I know she's not his biological daughter, but you should never be thinking about even a girl at 14 in this way. Never mind your own daughter.
You know, I should let you run with the dogs and get fleas, sister. Act like a little hoe. I shouldn't even worry about your ass.
See, that's even crueler, arguably, than the slut comment. He's playing into Morgan's deepest insecurity there. He's basically alluding like, look, I'm not your real dad. I don't need to bother with you. I'm doing this out of the kindness of my heart. Now, we've seen previously in this episode, Morgan calls him dad She doesn't call him Phil, she calls him Dad. She believes this is her dad. Genuinely, that will never leave her for the rest of her life. And again, this is the stuff he's saying on camera. So what does he say off camera when he's not on his best behaviour? Also, just the way he's commenting on her body. Like, why is he thinking about a 14-year-old in a sexual way? Other people just don't think like this. Like, why is your mind going to that? Like commenting on our body. It's very, very odd. Just quickly, guys, before we proceed with the episode, we are so close to 500,000 subscribers. If you want to join the donuts and be in the before 500,000 subscribers club, press subscribe now. You've only got one chance. I don't know how close we're going to be when this episode drops, but do it and join the best community on the internet.
He's just calling me a whore because the way I dress, I'm normal.
Now that's twice we've seen this, and we're only 10 minutes into the episode. Phil attacks Morgan for no reason. She's constantly getting attacked. Like, this is all happening in one day. Like, her entire life is just her taking bullets off Phil. Bearing in mind, she takes all of his responsibilities for the kids in the house. Like, he should be worshipping her at this point. And again, like, I feel like Debbie has to take some responsibility because she's enabling Phil to speak to Morgan like this and treat her kids like this. It's just a really, really toxic environment that she needs to take her kids out of at this point. But again, like I said, from her point of view, she's going to be thinking, well, you know, like, I want my family all together. It's such a horrible kind of situation to be in. And it's easy for us, like, just thinking about it logically. But when you're emotionally involved in the situation, it makes it so much harder. But what example is Debbie setting to Morgan and our other young girls that, you know, if a guy speaks to you like this, you just take it and don't say anything back? Jo then leaves the house and returns the next morning to talk to the parents, and she says that they have serious issues. That's putting it lightly. This is the worst family I've ever seen on Supernanny. She straight away puts Phil in his place about his punishment methods and say they need to stop. She also confronts him about the way that he constantly speaks to Morgan.
The man who raised her since she was 3 years old calls her a slut and called her a hoe yesterday.
I'm not saying I called her a slut. I said, if you want to dress like one.
Bullshit. Bullshit. Want another one? Bullshit. There we go. 3 for the price of 1.
I don't even think you know what you say when you're angry. You fly off the handle.
Supernanny basically goes on to call Phil a bully and says that his techniques aren't teaching the kids anything useful. It's just intimidating them, which is completely right, to be fair. And looking at Debbie's face throughout this, again, I feel like she knows what the right decision is for a family to do here. But unfortunately, I don't know if she's like strong enough to make the decision of leaving Phil permanent. Supernanny then says both the parents must change if anything in this family is going to turn good, which is pretty obvious. And they both agree to this. Now, obviously, the dream scenario is Phil fixes up and the family stay together and become happy. However, at this point in the episode, I am so unconfident that he's going to be able to change. Let's find out. Next up, Supernanny sets up a drill for Phil. Not like a music drill, right? He's not going to start like laying some hard bars. That would be horrific. It's a really weird one. She makes him throw darts at pictures of his children to like mimic the pain he's causing them.
It was really hard. I didn't want to do it.
I mean, you are smiling while you're doing it. You're like, there we go, 180. Are you watching? Right. Sign us up, Super League. I'm right here. Phil just walking in like this, ready to throw darts at his kids' pictures. Supernanny makes him repeat this process a couple of times, so he ends up throwing about like 30 darts at his kids' faces, and he says it makes him realise the pain he's causing them. Honestly, I don't know how this has made him realise that he's, you know, hurting his children, but, you know, any way to prove to him to stop hurting his kids, I'm kind of here for it. I just didn't think this would be the realisation moment. One thing I am a little bit disappointed with Supernanny and the production team here is they didn't include photos of Morgan, who's been like a prominent person in this episode. I know she's obviously a bit older, but she still believes that she's one of Phil's daughters, and like her watching this back, like as somebody who, you know, is the older sibling and is Morgan in this exact family dynamic, it just like little things like this do make you feel a bit left out. So it would have been nice to just have her photo there as well, especially since he causes Morgan the most harm. But I do understand, like, unless you've been that person in a family dynamic, it's kind of hard to, you know, see that emotional standpoint. Supernanny then takes Phil to the gym with Debbie to do another emotional drill. It's basically a drill based on trust, and it's so dramatic.
Debbie, you got to free fall backwards.
Okay.
What? How dramatic's this? What's going on here? Why is the music over it, man? Oh, I don't know if she's gonna do it. That's a long distance. Oh.
What'd you do there, Deb?
Put my foot back.
Yeah.
She put her foot back. She put her foot back. She doesn't trust him, man. To be fair, I feel like no matter how many times, even if Chloe was standing behind us like 50 times, I think I'm still putting my foot back 49 times. I just, I feel like that's just a very vulnerable position. What happens if I smack me head? What happens if just like I'm too heavy?
Why is it hard to free fall back on Phil?
Because he hasn't always been there for me.
No, she put her foot back. She doesn't trust him still. She doesn't trust him. That's exactly why.
Interesting though, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, so interesting. So interesting. So I need to stop laughing. I'm fucking creased. I need to just take the leap. Honestly, if I can do this, I can accomplish anything with him.
I love you. I'm gonna catch you. Right here.
Oh, she trusts him. Oh, I never thought the day would come. I feel like I'm watching Titanic. Honestly, better love story than that. Kind of is like Titanic, right? She's got her hands like this, hugging her from behind. Leonardo DiCaprio who? I only know Phil, mate. Although I guess this is a nice way to kind of build up like some mental trust, get over some barriers in your head mentally. This has just got no correlation to the success of their family dynamic, in my opinion. In a couple of weeks, Debbie's hardly going to be like, oh, well, Phil is battering the children again, but he did catch us that one time in the gym when I had a blindfold on, so I guess I'll stay with him. I trust him. Okay, I trust him. After this drill, they even do a weirder one. They put the blindfold on Phil and they tell him that Debbie's going to catch him. However, they make him stand in front of a pit and just let him fall into it.
So the next exercise would really show him what it feels like when trust is broken.
Oh.
Wait, I need to watch it again. I'm not going to laugh this time. I'm going to take it in. Okay, 2 secs.
Oh.
Bro really went. Oh, no. I put my foot back. I don't trust me beanbag. Right, I'm still working on it.
So what's that feel like?
Scary. I didn't realize I was causing that much damage to you.
I think this has worked. Somehow, Supernanny's a genius. Like, they're both... like, somehow having like some sort of awakening here. Although I do think he's put Debbie through a lot more stress than just falling into a soft kind of pit. So again, I don't know if this is going to have any impact on the actual family dynamics, but it might bring them closer together, which I guess you've got to be a team, so it might do some good. If they really wanted to teach Phil a lesson, they should have just made him fall into a ball pit of 17-year-old boys' necklaces. Okay, that'll teach him. Who's the slut now, Philly boy? After this session, they all then return home, and it seems like it's had a really positive effect on the family. Supernanny then gives Phil like these different techniques he can use to discipline the kids where he's not actually harming them. She just introduces the timeout method, and Phil actually keeps his calm and he implements it really well, and this is the first time we've ever seen any sort of progress with him. One thing about this specific episode I'm really glad with is they're not focusing in too much on the kids, because obviously the kids can't really consent to being on camera at such a young age. I love how this one is just solely focusing on the parents mainly. After this, Supernanny then gives them some techniques to help with making the morning routine easier because they're always late. She basically just says there's some jobs you can do in the night time before you go to bed, so you've got less stuff to do in the morning. I know it seems like really simple to say that, but because they're so stressed and so like clogged up in their minds, they probably just don't think logically a lot of the time. However, Jo says that she doesn't believe that they're going to implement these techniques in the morning, so she returns the next morning at 5:30 and surprises the family to make sure that they do it. This woman is mental. I love that she's basically like what Gordon Ramsay is to restaurants. She's that, but to families.
So what the Davis family don't know is that they're about to get a morning drill from me. As you can see, it's 5:30 in the morning, so let's go.
She is mental. Imagine being the neighbours going like, what's that? Huh? Why, the Davises got a production crew at 5:30? What they doing? Is that Michael McIntyre? Is it? Gonna surprise them in bed.
Good morning. It's your 5:30 morning school drill.
Okay.
I would be fuming, by the way, if I'm in the Davis family. I'd be like, look, love, you've girls the techniques now, just let us do it now. Like, imagine being Morgan and you've got Supernanny just screaming in your face at R5. I'd be like, oh, love, right, just let us have a coffee first, please. Before we start filming, just let us have a coffee in us. Just having a production crew with, like, studio lights in your face at R5 has got to be pretty fucking bad. On top of the stress of getting ready, etc. But it's what's got to be done to kind of force change, unfortunately. Luckily for Phil, he gets to escape Supernanny because he has to go to work quite early. But because of Supernanny's techniques, it means that Morgan can focus on just getting herself ready for school. She doesn't have to look after all of the kids. That's down to the mom because she's already done like most of the stuff the night before, so she doesn't have as much responsibilities on the morning, which is like so nice because this hopefully means that Morgan can get back ahead with her schoolwork. And this is the first time ever, apparently, like in their lives, they've been early for something. All of the kids are all in the car 17 minutes early, and this means Morgan can get to school on time. To be fair, I was always late for school, like genuinely every single day. I used to have to go in a different entrance because I was always so late. It's always just so embarrassing. Like, I don't know why it is, but especially primary school, you feel so embarrassed going in last. Later in the day, Supernanny then sets up another kind of exercise for Phil to do, but this time with Morgan, where Morgan is basically allowed to say anything she wants to him, get everything off her chest, and he's not allowed to interrupt her. Just basically creating a safe space for her to express herself. Like earlier in this episode, I said this family really do not create that dynamic to allow the kids to open up emotionally.
Whenever Mom and the girls and Philip come around, you're always different around them. When they're around, you're like a big jerk to everybody, and you can't use the excuse that you're an adult and I'm a child.
This'll be so nice for Morgan just to say these things she's wanted to say forever. Like, the weight off her shoulders this is gonna bring is so good. And also credit to Phil for actually listening to her. I know this is the bare minimum, but he hasn't been doing this at all in her life previously. So hopefully this is like a behavioural pattern shift for him. And this is like the first time we see an actual like loving bond between these two.
Made a lot of good points. You don't deserve to be talked to like that. And I do owe you an apology for embarrassing you about your clothes.
It'll be really interesting to hear what you think about this in the comments, like about this particular scene. I have a couple of opinions and they all kind of contrast with each other. I think it's really good that he's recognising that this behaviour is not good, but he recognised his behaviour, calling them bitches in the first kind of act, that wasn't good, but he still continued to do it. I do think there's a good person in Phil. I don't know if it's because of his upbringing and all of these bad habits that he's just incorporated into his lives and put onto his children makes him a bad person. If he was like this all of the time, he'd be like a great dad. But then it makes me think, is he just saying this because the cameras are there? It's so hard to work out. He's kind of a really complex character and he's a little bit scary. I'm not gonna lie, like at any point it seems like he could kind of flip. But here, he's being really emotionally available and you can see on Morgan's face, she's like actually smiling for the first time. So he clearly has it in him to be nice and empathetic. Supernanny then leaves for a week. At this point, she just wants to see how the family gets on without her using her techniques. Will Phil fix up permanently? Please say yes. Phil, I'm rooting for you, Phil. I'm not really rooting for you. I'm rooting for everyone else that you change, okay? Not really in your camp yet. However, Jo doesn't actually take the entire week. She returns within 3 days because she says that she's scared that Phil's behaviour could escalate, which is, you know, really not a good sign because obviously we're only shown a certain amount of footage. She would have seen a lot more, and the fact that she doesn't feel comfortable leaving the family with a full week is like a major red flag. Her first duty of call is to sit down with both Debbie and Phil and review the DVD footage that has been taken while she's been gone. And the first part of the DVD footage is actually really good. Phil's having fun with the kids. Debbie said before Phil would never just sit down and play with them. So this is progress. Again, it's the bare minimum, but it's progress. However, the DVD then does move on to some bad things that have been happening since Jo's been away.
Don't pour that on my carpet.
Justin, we might need to blur that. He's just like forcefully slapped his kid again on the mouth, but a lot harder this time. This is really concerning because he constantly says he's going to change, and it seems like he's getting worse. Like, there was a couple of slaps in that video. He was holding his kids whilst they were saying ow, and he wasn't letting go. Like, it's very aggressive behaviour, and you can see from Debbie's reaction here, she is like, what the hell is going on when I'm not here? Especially the two worst clips were like on a secret camera that he probably has forgot about. Like, the ones where he's actually been filmed by a production crew, they're not as bad as the ones where he's probably just forgot about the camera. And I know I'm getting a bit deeper here, but even though Phil has made some progress in this episode, like, there is some stuff that he has improved on, unfortunately, when he's stressed and when he's angry and tired, he's going to revert back to the behavioural patterns that he's used to. He's just going to slip back into those kind of behaviours himself. And that's why, like, especially that last clip when he's like half asleep, he just whacks them because that's just what he's used to doing, and that's what he normalises in his house. And that's probably what's been normalised in his house when he was younger by his parents. He does say after this that he has no excuse and he's completely in the wrong here. He admits it. But how many times, if you're Debbie, can you listen to this man say, I'm sorry for doing that, and then repeat the exact same behaviour again? There has to come a point where you put your foot down, because yeah, he can say sorry all of these times, but if he's not actually correcting his behaviour, then what does the sorry actually mean? Genuinely, like, out of every Supernanny episode we've ever done, this is the most disturbing one, and definitely the most toxic family house. In a lot of the Supernanny episodes, the kids are just kind of like crazy and the parents just can't control them because of the way they've raised them. This one is like physically disturbing.
Your children are not safe. It's my obligation to keep your kids safe. You're going to need counselling.
Right. I love my kids.
This is getting deep. Again, he's admitting to this and he knows it's wrong. It's almost like he doesn't know why he's doing it, which is even more deeper and disturbing, and needs, like, you know, definitely help with processing those emotions. Why this is his instant kind of movement to a trigger. I know a lot of people will just call him evil, and, you know, the behaviour he does is evil to the children, but there's a reason why this guy is like this, and I honestly believe he's been raised in a really toxic environment and he's just took this behaviour onto his own children. It's just so unfortunate and it really needs to stop. I definitely think that Jo did the right decision coming back now, and she's definitely been told by the production team and shown this footage and said, look, you can't like leave this any longer. She even says that the DVD footage was the worst she's ever seen on the show. One thing I do really appreciate from Supernanny in this episode is she arranges for Phil to go and see a therapist, somebody that deals with parents who are exhibiting this behaviour towards the children, like a specialist in this category. The therapist even brings another bloke with her who was exhibiting the same behaviour as Phil and managed to, like, turn it around, I guess.
Sometimes we just can't get rid of that habit.
I have worked with men who have never thought they would do this, but have killed their partners or killed even their children.
Christ almighty! Could you imagine hearing that as a dad? Like, putting yourself in his shoes, that you're exhibiting behaviour which has led other people to do these sort of acts. If that doesn't shock you, then I don't know what will. Obviously, at this point in the show, it's getting really deep, and you can tell that they're kind of really trying to help this guy. They're not just leaving him. I don't think the entire production crew could leave them at this point. They really do need to help. So Supernanny also arranges for Phil to meet a woman who grew up with a dad like Phil who exhibited the same behaviour and the effect it had on her growing up.
I saw the way that my father treated me, and on some level I believed that that was how I deserved to be treated, and I ended up being in a relationship with a man who was emotionally and verbally abusive.
That's exactly what I said at the start of this episode with Morgan. Like, this cycle is happening within his own family. Morgan is choosing, you know, guys that shouldn't really be with her age-wise because she's used to being treated a certain way by her dad. And unless he breaks the cycle, it's never really going to change. I'm just so happy that this has actually been aired on national television as well, because this is just such an important conversation that isn't really brought to light that much. And hopefully this will have such an impact on Phil. However, I honestly don't believe that this is going to change overnight. Like, he's not going to go home and just, like, be the perfect person. I think it's going to take a lot of work, like years of work, to undo all of the feelings that he automatically kind of, you know, puts onto things. But I really do hope that Phil can change his behaviour for the goodness of his kids, because his kids don't deserve to grow up like this woman who is talking about how it's impacted her entire life growing up like this. Supernanny then leaves for the final time, and we don't actually get an update, or we don't have an update episode. However, I did a little bit of research and I found out some things about the family. Morgan graduated high school in 2011, and she actually married Chris, who was the 17-year-old talked about in the episode that we never actually met. So I guess that, you know, it was a happy ending, but that's still a really weird age gap, 17 to 14, you know what I mean? And they have 2 children together, so, you know, they're like a close-knit family dynamic, and they're still together to this day, I believe. The entire family actually moved away from their hometown. The only person that didn't move was Morgan. Now, I find this really interesting, and I don't want to, you know, like nitpick with the families too much, but I can tell she felt not a part of that family dynamic, and this is why the entire family moved away, and she probably didn't go with them. She just wanted to do her own life. Obviously her boyfriend would have been from the area she was from, so she wanted to stay for that reason. But it's just interesting because I kind of understand the emotion she's kind of going through. After the episode aired, somehow Debbie and Phil had another child together. I don't know if they thought this would somehow fix the dynamic, but this is just outrageous to me from the behaviour we're witnessing in the episode. What even is more disturbing is Phil actually became a police officer. So I don't know if he I know he was on a little bit of a power trip in this episode with his kids. I don't know if that's the reason he became a police officer. But it's just wild that the police would watch this and then hire him as an officer. Like, how did they not? Surely there's like background checks, no? That is completely wild to me. But yeah, that is everything I could find. I actually found a photo of them as well. So yeah, I don't know if they just had to take this photo just for the episode or what, but you know, they all seem dead happy. I think most of them. Phil hasn't got a smile on his face, but when does he at the end of the day, unless he's thrown a dart at his kids' photos. And yeah, that's the end of this video. I hope you did enjoy it. I actually do have a series of Supernanny breakdowns now, so if you want to go on a binge watch of them, go and do it, or watch another video from me here. And thank you very much, Donuts, for taking the time to watch my videos again. I really appreciate it. Bye bye.